chief and leader of the tribes will have a dream and a vision of a flood coming and destroying this area. So he'll move the tribe out of the low-lying regions here on Caddo Lake to higher ground, and in 1811 the New Madrid earthquake will strike this area. It's the strongest earthquake in recorded history, estimated to have been in excess of 12 on the Richter scale. The earthquake will last for 2.5 weeks. The aftershocks will last for 6 months.
When was this?
1811.
Wow.
It'll permanently change the course of the Mississippi River and for one day cause it to flow the other direction. And here it sinks the land by 5 feet, creating a massive logjam on the Red River over 180 miles long, stopping the Red River in its tracks, causing it to fill its banks and spill into this, the Caddo watershed near Paris, Texas. That's how far this watershed goes, is all the way to Paris. There's a series of bayous that feed the lake there, the Big Cypress, Little Cypress, Black Cypress, and James bayous. A bayou is a French term for a shallow, slow-moving course of water which drops in elevation less than a foot for every mile that it travels. The Caddoan Indians numbered around 600,000 when the first Spaniards came through here, and their tribes, many of their affiliate tribes you might have heard of, the Kickapoo, the Chickasaw, the Chickasee, the Sonai, the Coshada, the Tonkawa, the Arkansas. All these were tribes that were affiliated with the Caddo. The Caddo were like their central leaders and ruled over them. They were the elite class. The Mississippi, there aren't Mississippi Indians. There were Alabama Indians, there were Tennessee Indians, there were Kentucky Indians. There were never any Mississippi Indians. Mississippi is the original name for that river. It's never had a different name. The name has always been the name that it is. And it was called Micho Chipe, Father of Waters, by the Indians. In Spanish we call it Mississippi, trying to mimic their language. This here is the only portion of the Mississippi River Valley in Texas. That's how the steamboats were able to travel from New Orleans to Jefferson and back again, a trip of about 4.5 days.
Some turtles.
The main ingredient in turtle soup.
Yeah, you see the turtles?
By the time the 1830s roll around, the Caddo sell their rights and holdings to these lands. There's only about 535 of them left. Disease had really decimated their numbers. It's estimated that between the year 1492 and 1892, over 50 million Native Americans died from European diseases. They had no immunities to them, yet they were the healthiest people on planet Earth before they ran into Europeans.
Yeah.
Prime example is Geronimo, who passed away in 1928. You've probably heard of him. He was a Native American. He was born in 1800. So, yeah, very healthy lifestyle, very healthy people. They didn't account time the way we do. They didn't count time the way we do. They remembered it, and they set their life from great events, you know. Child would be born in a blizzard of the year before the big buffalo and junk like that, so they didn't keep track of time like we did. But he's able to remember events from as far back as 1808.
Here, stay here.
He remembers the Lewis and Clark expedition. He remembers the earthquake of 1811, and he died in 1928.
Wow.
The Caddoan Indians will sell the 80,000 acres that they have here in this area for $80,000 to the United States, and be forced to go to a reservation in 1845, which is not bad because the United States has already paid 8 cents an acre for it. That's what the French got for the land. The Indians will get $1,000 an acre. That price wouldn't be seen again until 1935. Nah, it was kind of either you sell it and get this money, or we take it from you anyway and you don't sell it and you don't get the money. So it's kind of one of those deals. The government that possessed the U.S. government didn't have much use for a waterway that was jammed up with a log jam, so in 1827 they sent a man named Henry Miller Shreve to clear the log jam from the Red River. He'll labor for 6 years at that task and be unequal to it, stopping at a point called Bennett's Bluff and renaming it Shreveport in 1833. In 1835, the greatest revolution in the history of mankind breaks out. That's the Texas Revolution. The Mexican government attempts to seize the weapons of the citizens of Gonzales. They decide to give their guns over to the Mexican government, bullets first, which is the best way to give up your gun to the government on any level. It'll culminate with the Battle of San Jacinto, which just celebrated its anniversary just a few days back. April 21st, 1836. At 6:30 in the evening, 670 Texans will defeat 3,500 Mexican soldiers in 18 minutes. They used only diplomacy and economic sanctions. I'm just joking, they used guns. It's still the best way to beat your enemy.
Did they have superior firepower, or they just
Nope.
know the terrain better?
Element of surprise. Mexicans every afternoon do this thing called siesta.
Right.
So they let them go to siesta. There were a couple other things they did too. The camp was infiltrated by a number of women, led by a lady who's become known as the Yellow Rose of Texas. And they kept all the smart ones who would have seen Houston's troop movements and known what he was doing. They kept him busy. And so when the battle breaks out, most of the officers are in flagrante, including Santa Anna, the president. Y'all know what happens to Santa Anna? Y'all know, most of y'all aren't from Texas originally, so I'll tell you, he dies kind of a celebrity in Washington, D.C. in 1888. He outlives most every Texas founding father. I think he outlives all of them. He makes really good friends with a guy named Andrew. He and Andrew started a nice little company you've probably heard of called Wrigley Spearmint Chewing Gum. Santa Anna is, his family still owns a large part of Wrigley Spearmint, and that's where they get the gum from, is Santa Ana's plantations. That's where the gum trees come from. Andrew Jackson almost killed him. That's who they brought him before Andrew Jackson after the Revolutionary War, when Andy Jackson found out that he had massacred so many men who had surrendered to him and hadn't given any quarter to any of them. Andy Jackson wanted to take him out on the south lawn of the White House and chop his head off with a sword. As a matter of fact, Andrew Jackson was so upset that Santa Anna came through the entire Revolutionary War unscathed, he poked him 6 times with a sword to make him bleed. One of the greatest presidents in U.S. history, Andrew Jackson. Man, that guy was old hickory. So Texas is free and clear. We signed a treaty with the United States establishing our eastern boundary line, and we give up some land to what is now Louisiana. Actually, half the state comes from Texas. The Red River was the border between the highlands of Mexico and the United States at that time. And so that's the reason why if you go up the Red River, there's 2 towns on each side. One of them was a Texas town, the other one was a Louisiana town. And so they'll all become Louisiana towns in January of 1837. And in exchange for the land we give up, which is now Louisiana, we get all of Arkansas territory, this side of the Red River here in far northeast Texas, and all this becomes part of Texas in January of 1837 as well. started bringing steamboats across this waterway in the 1830s. I'll tell you a little bit more about steamboats when we get back to the dock because it's kind of an object lesson. It's good to have it right in front of you. The first boat to make it across these waters all the way to Jefferson is called the Llama. It's owned by someone y'all might have heard of. His name is Captain William Perry, Commodore Perry of Northwest Passage Bank. All this is sawgrass, by the way. It does exactly what its name implies. It saws you up. It'll cut you. It's got a little serrated edge to it. When Captain William Perry gets to Jefferson in the 1830s, he finds a series of rundown log cabins and a handful of settlers. And within 10 years, he'll turn Jefferson into a thriving metropolis of over 30,000 people. It'll become one of the largest cities in the United States, largest freshwater port in the country, and the furthest point west you could travel by water in those days. And it's a thoroughly lawless town. Considered by many historians to be the bloodiest town on the frontier of the United States ever, I'm inclined to agree with them. I live in downtown Jefferson, Texas, and within 5 blocks of my house are over 300 murder scenes, including that of Commodore Perry, shot in the back while on an evening stroll. Today, Jefferson's a sleepy little bed and breakfast community of about 2,100 people. It is the bed and breakfast capital of Texas with over 30 operational B&Bs there, as well as antique stores. They do a lot of events in Jefferson. It's a neat little town to go see. It was designed to be a second New Orleans, so it looks like somebody just took about 5 blocks out of the French Quarter and dropped it right in the middle of East Texas. It's a really neat little place. But it's considered the 8th most haunted town in the Northern Hemisphere. The most haunted city in Texas, one of the most haunted cities in the U.S. It has some of the most haunted buildings in the U.S. in it. Strange things happen there all the time. Weird, freaky, strange stuff. Freaky.
So the steamboats go up the Red River and then
Over to Jefferson, up this bayou. And they came back here through this way, servicing ports on the North Shore. Originally, Jefferson was supposed to be built back there. The rock wouldn't allow it to. They wouldn't find the best place to build Jefferson for another about 27 miles from here. There was a little dead armadillo over here the other day. He got caught in the water and drowned. Armadillos can't swim, by the way. All the discontent in Jefferson is going to lead to the burning of the town 4 times. The last time in 1872, 2/3 of the town was destroyed during a race riot, never to be rebuilt. Most of the industrialists, entrepreneurs, and business owners are going to pack up and pull out, moving down the railroad tracks and founding a new town in 1873 called Texarkana. Texarkana will be founded on a bend in the Red River in the hopes of building a new steamboat port on the Red. They'd heard the Army Corps of Engineers was going to destroy the logjam on the Red once and for all, and they were trying to get ahead of the curve. Once the Army Corps destroys the logjam on the Red River, it inadvertently drains Caddo Lake almost dry. And the Red River is a violent river. It's not like the Mississippi or anything. It changes day to day. It'll pass Texarkana by 15 miles, even at high and dry. Texarkana will never become a gateway, but it'll never become the proposed port that they wanted it to be.
It's another little turtle.
How y'all doing? Any questions so far? Yeah, they're here. They're all over. They of weird. They don't broadcast the black bear because they're repatriating them. They don't want people to go crazy with them. Black bears can cause. They're very playful, just on their own. They're very aloof. But if a female black bear has babies with her or something like that, you got to know. There's like courses that you can take on bear fighting, and there's ways to handle yourself. Most people just tend to lay down and cry, but bears, if you see baby bears, get away from them. You know, she'll see you just being there as a bred. That's the biggest problem. Bears on their own, unless it's a grizzly or a polar bear, they're going to leave you alone. They're not going to mess with you because they don't eat humans. They don't. Russian brown bears will eat humans, but they've got all those Russians they have nothing to do with. They just feed them to the bears. That's the government under Putin now.
We could send some of our politicians over there. Maybe you'll feed them to bears.
Nah. They need to unleash Merkel. Let Merkel go. She'd show them what for. She may not be locally loved, but I tell you what. Putin fears her. If she was behind the gun, he'd fear her.
Yep.
The Russians, a lot of people here do not understand. Germans hate Russians. It's not this nice, happy, they hate them. Russians and Germans do not get along. They hate each other.
I hate nobody.
That's good to
I
hear.
hate nobody. I'll tell you right now, if you're a German and you lived in Germany after World War II, you hate Russians.
His family did move back a year. Western Germany.
I knew one of my good friends, his mother was there in Germany after the fall of Berlin and everything, and the whole family, all of them, they all hated Russians. Now you get some Germans around each other, he'll be all nice now that the Swedes are here. He's just going to hold back a little bit. The Swedes is like, I don't want to make myself look bad in front of the Swedes.
Swedes is not neutral.
No, the Swedes are not neutral. The Swedes are worried right now, is what the Swedes are. So I'm a little worried. Ukraine guys, America's going to send 150 guys over, don't worry. It'll be okay. 65,000 Russians, 150 about equal. Because one of them is Chuck Norris. That's like equivalent. He's still Chuck Norris. What he's doing now is he's just lulling everybody into a sense of comfort.
Just put this back on.
Yeah. No, brother. I found out the other day that Death had a near Chuck Norris experience once.
In case there's anybody spying, we don't want to get this nice young man into trouble.
Trouble's my middle name. If you always stay in trouble, you know where you stand. Yeah, it's really funny when you study about other countries like Sweden and I love me. I've got some good friends from Lithuania, and you meet wonderful people from Germany, because they're just regular everyday people, and it's really unusual to run across, sad to say, an American who knows, about their country, because what they get force-fed everywhere else is America, America, America. And to have an American come in and say, oh, I like Munich and North Germans are crazy, and it's the French are one way in one place and another way down in the Loire, and then you get to meet the Spanish from the Pyrenees, and the Spanish from Sevilla talk funny about the ones from Barcelona, and so you have fun with them when they're from other countries. I love it when I meet girls from Bavaria. I say, what do you call the cream in Bavaria? Because we call it Bavarian cream here. Do y'all just call it our cream? Just put our cream in the donuts? And hey, They have a blast with that. That's really funny. It's a good beer. I always ask Germans, what's your favorite American beer? They usually don't have an answer for that.
Coors.
Coors?
Wow.
Are they paying you to advertise?
Budweiser shit.
Budweiser.
Budweiser.
No.
Anheuser-Busch is all awful.
Budweiser Scheiße.
Huh? Anheuser-Busch is no good.
Oh. I like meeting. I like people from Russia. We have a lot of Russian expats here that, you know, and when you know stuff about Russia, they're like, "How do you know this?" I'm like, "There's these things called books." No, you're not the first person from Russia. But it's true. I won't put your friend on the spot. Germans hate Russians. Just so y'all know. Oh, that sounds like a croupy little
Yeah, I
cough.
don't like that. It's come up all of a
You
sudden.
need to make her a little hot toddy a little later tonight. Shot of whiskey, a spoonful of honey, a tablespoon of honey, tablespoon of hot water, and a shot of whiskey.
And 5
Take
sleeping
care of
pills.
it. Well, no, that'll do it
Her
for
brother wants her to have a sleeping pill.
That'll do it. My daughter, I was a single dad for 5 years
Uh-huh.
of a little girl just like that. The minute she did that, I like Eagle Rare whiskey. It's a very nice. I had a 20-year-old single malt, and I would use that, the honey, and then you microwave it. You just heat it up. The alcohol, it will not have the
Right,
effect.
the effect, yeah.
But you use about 2 tablespoons of the whiskey, a tablespoon of honey, and a tablespoon of water.
Yeah, I thought it was from the air conditioning because we've been in a hotel.
2 days, maybe the allergies.
She kept me up.
Yeah.
She kept me up.
Flew in last Friday.
During the night, like she woke up every hour. One time, I think it was because
She's training
I
you
never
for
had a
adulthood.
flight
Yeah,
where it's
one-
so warm.
one,
that no American was telling the stewardess turn the temperature. I was.
So, 50 years ago, they parceled up the land. When they sold it off in the late 1800s, settlers moved in and bought all the property after the lake was inadvertently drained. They paid 8 cents an acre because the government has to sell you property for the same price it buys it for. That's a constitutional thing. And 50 years ago, they parceled it up in these quarter-acre lots you see here and sell them for about $5,000 a piece. 16 years ago, they're about $40,000. Nowadays, you can't touch an empty lot for less than $135,000. And if it's just got the even most modest home on it, 300, 350,000, $500,000, some of these bigger homes, $1 million. Yeah, it's preposterous. They discovered oil here in 1904, but they couldn't get their equipment out here because it was too muddy and boggy, so they'll petition Congress to flood back in the lake so they could float their equipment out over the water and drill for oil. A lot of the people who live here agreed. They got to keep their land, they got to keep their mineral rights. So there was a good little trade-off there. This is the only lake in the state of Texas people own the land under the water. The Baird family of Louisiana sold all of this, 2,000 acres of land, to the state of Texas to start the wildlife management area, the same wildlife management area. So